Good evening. Welcome. Oh,
Hold on.
almost good evening. Waiting for the cue. All right. Hello and good evening. Welcome to Acoustic Moose, one of the Audio for the Arts concert series that we do. And we are really pleased to be able to bring you a repeat performance by one of our favorite guys. And what's funny is I see you and I, even though we splurged on color cameras, and you and I both dressed in black and white, Steve. What's going on?
We're trendy.
We're trendy. So this is Steven Meyer, and he is always an amazing person to listen to because he'll take you from Héctor Villalobos to Santana and everything in between, and just a lot of fun to explore all these different genres with him. And so Acoustic Moose and our founder, Chip the Moose, are all ready to go. Bruce Johnson in the control room, Noah Gilfillan behind the camera, and our wonderful guest performer. Take it away, Steven Meyer.
Thank you very much.
Have we got a bit of live action here? Okay, so I'd like to thank Audio for the Arts for inviting me, and it's summertime, and we're hoping to have a nice program and maybe do a little bit more in terms of explaining and presenting the history behind some of where these tunes come from. So I hope you enjoy.
So I brought some prepared notes here.
Normally, and for a long time, I've started with green sleeves, and it's kind of a warm-up piece for me. And lately, I've been doing more Old English and discovering more Old English, including a lot of John Dowland these days. And that piece was called Watkins Ale, and it's a English country dance fiddle tune from the 1590s, and with a very interesting rhythm. But I saw Christopher Parkening perform this, and if it's in his repertoire, I'm going to put it in my repertoire. So that's the origin of that tune for me. We're going to continue on with another Celtic piece, and it's called the Sky Boat Song, and it's came to my attention mainly because I enjoy the Outlander TV series. Hope you enjoy this. Thanks.
Continue right along.
So that was John Dowland. And the full title of that piece is Come Again, Sweet Love Doth Now Invite. And John Dowland was, of course, an English Renaissance composer, lutenist, and singer whose instrumental music has undergone a major revival here in the 20th century again. And it's a source of repertoire for lutenists and guitarists. Even the rock musician Sting released The Journey in the Labyrinth, the music of John Dowland, and that was, I think, in 2007. And if you're a guitar player playing lute music, one of the techniques to know is that you would take your G string and take it to an F sharp for most of that type of music. We're going to continue on with a piece called Thaxted, which is by Gustav Holst, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Thank you. Couple interesting things about that music is it's from the English composer Gustav Holst, and it's from the Jupiter movement of his orchestral suite. It's actually named Thaxted, which is the name of the English village where Holst lived. It was the hymn version, I Vow to Thee, My Country, which was sung at the wedding of Prince Charles and Diana, and also at her funeral later on. I was inspired to create a guitar version of this piece upon hearing it performed by the Madison Chamber Orchestra at their popular concerts on the square. The audience, including families and children nearby, were singing the various hymns they knew to this wonderful piece of music history. I released my second album in 2019, and Thaxted is one of the pieces on there, and it's the most popular selection from that album worldwide. And it's incredible to know that it would be inspiring around the world like that. So I'm talking to Noah over here, by the way. Thank you. We've got a captive audience. So let's just go on into some classical here. Thank you. Let's come back to the notes. I started with minuet in G, and there's as Buzz refers to the before times when you were performing regularly and things got a little weird there, and so typically enterprising musicians will go back into what I refer to as the woodshed and work on new pieces. And then I did have an opportunity to perform last year at a couple wine tasting events, and it's important to realize that the children can start with a piece like the minuet in G, whether it's on piano or guitar, and it takes you back to your roots for a certain kind of music. And I was inspired to do a improvisation of that, which is on my third album called Baroque Minuendo, which is basically an improvisation on minuet and G. One of the things about that, it was always attributed to Johann Sebastian Bach, but it has since been corrected to be Christian Petzold. And if you didn't know, that's kind of a new thing that they've discovered, that there was a different composer of the minuet in G. The next piece was the Vals Venezuelano by Antonio Loro, who was from a native Venezuelan and was very influential in the 18th century. And his Waltz Number 3 is dedicated to his daughter. And it's a different area of Latin America that you might not expect could produce that type of music to that level. I was fortunate to see the brilliant classical guitarist Sharon Isbin perform in Madison, and that was maybe 2008 or 2009. And she had just released her 18th album that was called Journey to the Amazon, and she actually autographed a copy for me. And that piece is on that recording, and she also does a quite marvelous tutorial on how to play that song on YouTube. So it's there for everybody to discover. We're going to move on into a Villalobos piece now, and then I'll talk a little bit about that. Thank you.
We'll see where this goes.
So Villalobos, let's put this on here. Heitor Villalobos was a Brazilian composer, conductor, cellist, classical guitarist, and a Brazilian national treasure. Maintained a close connection to Brazilian folklore and was a pioneer on the fusion of Brazilian and classical European music. And that piece is part of the standard classical guitar repertoire that most students learn. He also composed many, many studies, and the Chorus Number 1 is probably his best known composition. Long time ago, and this is just a little history about the journey of Steven Meyer. When I was just playing rock and roll in bands and learning standards and starting out, and there was a restaurant in downtown Milwaukee called Cafe La Boheme, and there was a young lady who was a Milwaukee Conservatory or Wisconsin Conservatory student, and I had never heard anybody perform this live, and she proceeded to play this along with some of the other H. Villalobos studies, and it inspired me just to realize that there was music outside of America that I didn't have any clue about. And it really opened the doors to discover a lot of interesting things that are happening in music. She also did a really nice arrangement of Your Cheatin' Heart that I always play when someone requests that as well. I'm going to go and we're going to change now from some straight classical and proceed on into some Latin jazz, a little bossa nova, and we're going to start with a Felicidade, which is happiness, means happy, and it was composed in 1958 for Black Orpheus, the film, which has many, many standards that came out of that, and it's one of the favorite Jobim compositions. Roland Dien has a very good arrangement of it, and we're going to start with that for this next section of Latin jazz and bossa nova.
Night in Tunisia.
So that was Dizzy Gillespie standard written in the early 40s. And it's you're going to hear a number of these be called a jazz standard or just a standard, which is a special connotation. The arrangement I just played is my arrangement, and it's on my second album, that Audio for the Arts, produced here for me and recorded, and it's entitled Guitar au Naturel. We're going to move on to a couple other classical pieces that are kind of fusion. One is Tango and Sky, and then we're going to go Cielo Abierto, and we'll talk a little bit more about those too.
Let's just see. This is a work in progress. Cielo.
Cielo abierto.
And
So that's an Argentinian guitarist, Quique Senesi, Latin Grammy award-winning artist in Argentina. Yumando Castro is the couple of these guys are 7-string guitar players, and his music incorporates elements of tango, jazz, contemporary, classical. There's a couple, I first, when I was talking about going back into the woodshed and working on new material, especially for my third album, I was inspired by 2 amazing young female classical guitarists. And so I'm giving a shout out here to Stephanie Jones and Zofia Boros, who has this piece recorded on an album for ECM. And Stephanie Jones also has a very nice YouTube video. It's interesting to see this piece performed by a guitar player traveling on the river in a canoe with a bongo player playing along. And Sofia Boros actually has a piece where she plays a video, and there's a young lady tap dancing to this exact same song. So, and it's played all over the world. I don't think it's that well known here, and so I was happy to sort of introduce it to the North American audience. The one before that was Tango and Sky, and Sky, by the way, is a French term for imitation leather that the gauchos or the cowboys in Argentina and Brazil wear, and it's supposed to be sort of a flamboyant tango piece that you can have a lot of fun with. I'm gonna finish up the Latin jazz and fusion part of this with To the Night by Otmar Liebert, this was on his platinum album in the mid-90s, and he's an amazing flamenco guitar player. And if there's one thing I still enjoy about him is his website has the most amazing diary, daily journal that he's been contributing to for over 20 years. And lately he just has been taking walks, and I'm not quite sure how much he's touring, but that this is To the Night from Nouveau Flamenco.
And now we're going to have some fun. Kind of the program is going along. We're now going to go into some standards territory, a little bit of what I call finger picking or Travis style picking, and take some tunes that have been around. This is a going to do a standard called Deed I Do, and then we're going to move into a little George Gershwin and Summertime, and going to try to do a couple different versions of that. So I hope you enjoy this. Thank you.
Coming on the top of the hour, aren't we? And actually, I think we're going to switch guitars here for a second. And get this guy going. So you might have to make a little adjustment there, Buzz. Summertime. That was a couple of jazz standards, Dream a Little Dream of Me by Gus Kahn, and Deed I Do, and that's actually an older Chet Atkins arrangement, but sometimes I mash in a little Diana Krall in there, and which is going to take us to, we're going to do a little up-tempo thing, and it's another standard called Take 5 by Dave Brubeck. This has been in the works for a while. That's going to be part of the program coming up next time. So that's a work in progress, Take 5 by Dave Brubeck, and I was doing a little research on the original recording for that, and they wanted to do one of these unusual tempos in 5/4 time, and apparently the band, it took them 47 takes. If you didn't hear that story, because one of the members would always just not get it right, and it really took them a long time to get that going. So Noah's going, wow, and so it didn't happen automatically. So we're going to switch over to a little moving into the pop orientation on doing solo fingerstyle guitar with some of these popular tunes. And on my second album, and I do play piano on the side as well, and so the music theory comes in. And I've always been a fan of Elton John, and he's got a big time, he's one of the most amazing miracles in music. And I did a rendition of Blue Eyes, which is like back from the early 80s, and I pretty much am playing the piano chart right off the chart. So, and this is dedicated, by the way, to Elizabeth Taylor. if we have Buzz listening in there, we might want to put a little echo or a little reverb on this next tune, just for this one tune. That is, of course, Where Were You by Jeff Beck, who's one of the original guitar heroes of all time, and is recently in his concerts has been doing more opera and doing some very unusual things. He actually, I have a Celtic piece called Women of Ireland that I've been doing for quite a long time, and it's on my first album, and he actually is doing that in concert now. And but that is one of my favorite off his Guitar Shop album, which is from a while back. So, Jeff Beck, that's for you. Actually, this is another pop tune that someone comes up and makes a request a couple years ago, and next thing you know, I make an arrangement of that, and that is also on my third album, Solo Guitar Arenas, and that's by, of course, Lady Gaga, otherwise known as Stephanie Germanotta. And if you didn't know, she has an amazing tune in the new Top Gun movie, Hold My Hand, and it has like 89 billion views or something. It is pretty amazing. So I'm going to continue on with another one of my favorite pop pieces. Here we go. Great, thank you. Let's moving on into the, this program is going pretty good, I think. That was, need my microphone, here we go. Okay, we're on track. We're on track. That was, of course, White Winter Hymnal by Fleet Foxes, and they were an American indie folk band formed in Seattle in 2006, and that tune came out 2008. I also I think I saw the Pentatonics version on YouTube, and it's kind of the arrangement kind of blends the two different approaches there, and there's things that they do that Fleet Foxes didn't do. There's a new issue of Uncut Magazine that has their 300 greatest hits of the Uncut Magazine era, and that is in the top 10, which is kind of an amazing thing. So we're going to continue on with another standard, and with regards to everything that's coming through this instrument that's connected by history and by musical genres, especially Latin fusion and Caribbean influences. Kizomba, if I'm saying that right, Kizomba is a dance form that's becoming wildly popular
all around the world. It's kind of a somehow taken an offshoot from Zumba, but it's Kizomba, and the tune I'm going to play now is in this style, and it's called "Help Me Make It Through the Night" by Chris Christopherson. Told you we were going to have fun. We're having fun. Help me make it through the night. And I'm just going to finish up this part of the program with just a little blues tune called Black Magic Woman. We're going to talk more about that.
Santana. By the way, for those, when I look back at the original version of that is by Fleetwood Mac, actually, Peter Green. And so Santana basically was doing a cover tune. And the second part of that, which some releases have the Gypsy Queen, that's also one of my favorite guitarist of that era is Gabor Szabo, who had a song called Gypsy Queen, and they added that on there as well. So those are both cover tunes that Santana had huge hits with that I don't think Fleetwood Mac did that great with it. So we're doing pretty well on time here, you think? Okay. I'm going to do a couple Beatles songs now. And it's interesting, I'm going to start with All You Need Is Love. And my whole focus for playing guitar is to do concerts and gigs. And gigs can be weddings, they can be playing at wineries and playing for special events. And the last wedding I played was in the middle of May. And when I play weddings these days, and there's always requests for music, All You Need Is Love is one of the most requested tunes that I actually play when the bride instead of as a processional. So I'm going to continue on with this right now. What do we got here? Because this is a fun one. We're trying to have some fun. Let's see. Those are some Beatles that Day Tripper arrangement is actually a Tommy Emmanuel, and he's kind of famous for doing a guitar lesson on how he puts that together. And I've always enjoyed that version. And prior to that, it was a little I Want to Hold Your Hand. And I have a couple different arrangements. That one is inspired by Earl Klug. And in terms of my guitar journey, one of the very first nylon string sort of fusion pieces I heard was Earl Klug on one of his first albums, and he actually does. I heard it through the grapevine. He does this kind of a thing. And that goes back quite a long ways, and he went on quite a long way himself, and he has 2 solo guitar albums out as well. And when it comes to just, always working on your instrument and being able to go into these different genres, one of my other guitar heroes is Ralph Towner, and he has 40 or 50 recordings out there with bands, but he also has 4 solo guitar albums, and I think he's 80 years old now and living in Italy and performing down there. And it was very recently he did an interview with a young musician, a young piano player, and actually does a guitar lesson in that and plays 3 or 4 pieces that he hasn't recorded yet. And like a 30 to 40 minute just casual interview with Ralph Towner, and it's out there in the interwebs, as Buzz likes to call them. So it's very inspiring, and he's one that says, I took the downtime
and went back and started practicing. And he goes, "Guess what? You get better when you practice." So. And what are we continuing on with here? So, okay. Where did it go, man? Okay. We're gonna finish up. I actually had a couple pieces prepared for a little finale, but I'm actually going to do Largo from the New World Symphony, and it also goes by the title "Going Home." This little section, and Dvorak was composed this in 1893 while he was director at the National Conservatory, and it's one of his most popular symphonies. And this piece is just sort of striking a chord for me these days, and I hope to record this soon. Let's go to my chart.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Steven, thanks. Steven Meyer, thank you so much. This is all part of the Acoustic Moose concert series brought to you by Audio for the Arts, and we're always grateful to you who tune in and also to the artist, in this case, Steven Meyer. Thank you, my friend. Our camera operator is Noah Gilfillan. Bruce Johnson is directing, and I'm Buzz Kemper. Thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you, and have a
Good
great
evening.
summer. Yay, thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
that bar chord named Tunisia. That part is
Well,
tiring to watch.
well, it's funny because I wasn't hitting it, and I was sometimes I forget.